bills.
Mr Deputy Speaker, I'm going to ask the same question to those on the government benches that we've all been asking on this side, and we still haven't got an answer. What do you possibly want people to say that they can't already say now? I get it. Some of you want to change 18C because it's about free speech, at least some of you. But what racial hate speech do you consider so acceptable that it is currently being curtailed by 18C? Deputy Speaker, today's Harmony Day. It's a day held to celebrate our cultural diversity and respect for everyone who calls Australia home, no matter where we came from. I've always argued that we should not just tolerate but embrace our diversity. It's a strength of our multicultural society. Our multiculturalism works because we don't have to choose between our identities. If you're an Egyptian background or heritage like me, or the member for Cowan, or Greek or Vietnamese or Ethiopian or Lebanese, you should and can be proud of being an Australian and of your cultural heritage at the same time. Yet this government has chosen today, Harmony Day, today of all days, to actually announce that they're proposing to gut 18C of the RDA. They're proposing to gut what has been one of the solid foundations of our successful multicultural society. For over 20 years, Section 18C has protected our community against racial hate speech. But over there, they've got selective amnesia. They forget that there is a subsequent section. It's called 18D. It protects free speech for members of the press, for artists, for academics, and anyone who is genuinely communicating their views in the public interest. 18C and 18D, introduced by the Keating government, survived 11 years of the Howard government. Maintained when Labor returned to power, all these governments understood the need to maintain laws against race hate speech. Now, I feel sorry for the member for Moore, the previous speaker, because he chaired a committee that made no recommendations for any change to 18C. But the proposed change really is just another destructive obsession of the far-right wingers who have hijacked this dysfunctional government. They've forced their own Prime Minister to change his position, which, albeit, is not too difficult to do. But in spite of his own repeated claims, time and time again, that he had no intention of pulling apart the laws that have served us so well for decades. These changes remove the clarity achieved through 20 years of judicial decision-making. And the PM has been rolled by those who want, to use the words of his own Attorney-General, the right to be bigots. Was he serious? How ridiculous, how disgusting, and what a complete misunderstanding of the law by the first law officer of this land. No one has a right to be a bigot. We have a right to free speech and freedom of expression, but that comes with the responsibility to exercise that with some basic decency. We can't, under the law, all shout fire in a cinema, nor can anyone shout racial abuse without legal consequence. I learnt that in first year of law school. Mr Deputy Speaker, this is personal for me and for millions of Australians. As a son of migrants from Egypt, growing up in a housing commission in the 70s and 80s, I experienced racist hate speech firsthand. I've been called a wog, a sand nigger, things that are much worse, that are best not repeated in this place. There's nothing more vile than racism. There can be no good in allowing it to happen. It is ugly, it is hateful, it shakes the cause of one's being as a human being. It brings the individuals who use it and the society that condones it down into the abyss of hate and division. And of course it severely affects and hurts deeply the victims throughout their lives. It goes against the basic decency and fairness that should be the foremost factor in our relations with each other. Nobody deserves to endure abuse based on their race or their ethnicity, and those who use racial slurs as a weapon deserve to be, must be held account by the law. That is what this Act does, that is what 18C does, and it has done so well for decades. I know that the majority of Australians abhor racism, and Section 18C reflects those values. And we, on this side of the House, Labor, support a modern multicultural Australia, where people are not subjected to racism and hate speech without legal consequences. We stand on this principle with multicultural Australia. We wish this was not a fight we had to have in 2017. There are far more vital issues in Australia which we are focused on: Medicare, fighting for penalty rates, access to education and healthcare, our education system. Watering down Australia's race hate laws will not create a single job, build a single road or benefit our healthcare or education systems. And this Prime Minister is doing nothing to stand up for ethnic communities. But we will oppose hate speech, and our voices will join across this land to oppose these unnecessary and ideological changes, because we do so because the Racial Discrimination Act makes Australia a better country.
I call them